Alright guys, Hayzink here, welcome back to the channel for another Street Fighter Duel video. So, people have obviously noticed that this week there's really not a lot of content to do, right? There's the HWA, that's pretty much it, right? And we already essentially know our roadmap for next week as well, right? Because next week we are pretty much going to have this Guild Crusade thing. That's probably going to be next week's content, right? There's nothing else announced. Usually in the patch notes it would say guild prep or whatever, so I wouldn't expect there to be like a guild battle next week or anything like that, right? Now I've got a theory on why that is, and I'm going to share it with you now, right? Don't worry, it's not end of service. So every month we get an event, a full event, right? Now if you take the date just now, for us to get an event this month, the countdown would need to be next week, okay? Now we don't know yet, there could be a countdown that comes next week, right? I don't think there's going to be a countdown next week, and I have a theory on why that is, and I want to share that theory with you guys because I basically want to put it out there publicly so that if I'm right I can go, hey, I got it right. So I made a video, I think it was about a month ago, maybe a month and a bit ago, where I said the 6-month anniversary was upcoming. It was going to be this month, and at the time of making that video there was no plans to do anything for the anniversary, right? Now after I made that video, however, I started to hear rumblings that maybe the devs were going to do something for the anniversary. Can I take credit for that? Maybe. I might just take credit for it. We'll see what happens, right? So, one of the things I heard though was it might not be anything major, it might just be like a login or something like that, right? Just like happy 6-month anniversary or whatever, right? However, the fact that we've not had an announcement for an event or anything like that, I'm actually now starting to think what they're maybe going to do is we're not going to have a countdown for an event. We'll still have an event, but rather than doing a countdown, we'll do a login, and we'll still get an event at the end of the month, because if they do not post an event this month, that means there'll be no big character, and even though people might be a little bit bummed right now, there is still people out there who would spend money in summon, right? But without having the event, the revenue for this month will be by far and away the worst month that's actually possible to come about. Now, the developers have not really shown a lot of, I want to say, desire to make people happy. However, I still feel like an anniversary is an anniversary. If you're going to mark it, you have to make it rewarding. Like every single game out there makes their anniversary periods rewarding. So I'm not giving them credit, I'm not holding my breath, but all I'm saying is I hope that this will be a time that it's quite rewarding. Now if we flash back to the video that I made, if I have had influence on them, then what I said back then was what would make sense for me as a Street Fighter fan, as a Street Fighter fan, and as someone who feels like you want to try and reward the players, you want to try and keep the players invested, you want to bring the players back, would be to do Fashion Blanca Round 2. Basically, use the 6-month anniversary to give players another free-to-play legendary character, right? My actual suggestion, I can't call it a prediction because I don't even know if they're going to do it, right? But what I mean by do it is mark the 6-month anniversary properly. But my suggestion for the anniversary was go all in main character, right? What I meant by that was, you're obviously going to sell a character, right? But if you're going to give away a legend, then make it Fashion Ken. And if you're going to sell a character, make it Fashion Ryu. Because if you think of Street Fighter as Dragon Ball, Ryu is Goku, Ken is Vegeta. Vegeta's not quite the main character, but he's well regarded as like the main character. But the poster child for Dragon Ball is Goku. And I feel like that's the same thing with Street Fighter. Ryu is the main man, Ken is just almost the main man, but he's not quite the main man, but you could market the game round about him at the same time. So it makes sense to me that if you were going to give one of the two of them away as a legendary character, it would be Ken. And if you were going to sell one of them as your marquee unit or your limited unit that month and bust the absolute shit out of them, it would be Ryu. You guys can agree or disagree with that. If you're a Vegeta stan, you might think he's the main character of Dragon Ball. Hate to tell you, he's not. It's obviously Goku. But it's the same thing with Street Fighter. I feel like Street Fighter is Ryu's game, although quite clearly Ken has a big, massive part in that. So that's what I predicted back then. Well, I said predicted. I suggested was probably the better way of putting it. And if they do something like that, I hope to God, even though I'm an atheist, I still hope to God that they do something like that, because I feel like the game is obviously got a lot of apathy in it at the moment. A lot of the player base just don't care anymore. You've got people still logging on and playing, but they don't care. They don't. Facts are, if you ask most players right now, they're doing their dailies. They can't even care anymore. They're just running in the hope that something gets better, something improves, something nice comes along that they can actually benefit from, whether it be pity, whether it be a new legendary unit, or something like that. And I feel like, unless they are willingly tone deaf, because I know they're tone deaf, right? The developers I'm talking about. But unless they're willingly tone deaf, right? Which means they are actually going out of their way to not make players happy one iota, right? I feel like they have to do something if they're going to mark this anniversary. And just going with the lack of content right now, going with the fact that we do not have a login, if they were to do a patch with a login after next week, you are not going to have enough time in the month of August to do an event. The only other way I can see them getting an event in this month is if they do it the way I've said, which would be anniversary event, login rather than a pre-login, still have an event and all the rest of it, have hopefully a login character, have an event character, maybe have a factional character. It would be the best time for them to go hard, right? I mean, the dream would also be to add pity, but one dream at a time. Like I can't see everything happening. I mean, the odds in them actually giving away a legendary character are like pretty damn feckin' low, right? But if they're ever going to do it again, the two times that make sense that they could do it would be the 6-month anniversary and the 1-year anniversary, meaning they gave a character away at launch, they gave a character away 6 months later at the anniversary, and they gave another character away at the 1-year anniversary. Logically speaking, chronologically speaking, that makes the most sense. If they're going to do that, it makes the absolute most sense to do it like that. Maybe I'm actually huffing copium, hoping that they would do something like that, but there's a chance. There's a chance. Like, I am not giving them too much credit. I am, in fact, giving them ideas that they can take as their own and pretend that they came up with them. This is all things I said like a month and a half ago. You can go back and watch that video. I'm not saying anything just now that I didn't say a month and a half ago. And I can tell you right now, 1.5 months ago, they were not planning to do anything for the anniversary. The most recent thing I heard was shortly after I made that video, which was they were maybe thinking about doing something for the anniversary. However, the scale of that, I didn't hear anything about. I've still not heard anything about. But the fact that we are so lacking in content just now, yet we are approaching that period, makes me think that the next patch that comes out, the next update notes, is going to be bang, surprise guys, anniversary time, let's party. That's what I'm hoping for. It's the only thing I'm thinking. I cannot imagine that we are going to have a month of no content. Because again, every event, normal event structure, has had a pre-login. And now we won't get a patch for another full week from Wednesday. So that would take us to the 23rd. No, that would take us to the 16th. If the patch came out, you would have to have a week login. No, would it take us to the 16th? Wait a minute, no. 16th, that would only be a week, right? So it would take us to the 23rd. Then you would have to have a week's pre-event notice. They wouldn't have an event in time. So anyway, I'm crossing my fingers. We'll see what happens. Let me know what you think. Am I being too hopeful? Catch you in the next one. Assaulted. You got, why are you punching me in the face? Anyway, peace.